Planning and Zoning meeting. Can we do roll call, please?
Commission member Solwich,
Here.
Ritchie,
Here.
Harris,
Here.
Ormsby,
Here.
Freeble,
Here.
Graves,
Here.
Harmon,
Here.
Becker.
All right, next is agenda approval. Approval of the January 2023 Planning and Zoning agenda. Would someone like to make a motion?
Motion to approve it as submitted.
We need to add the items. Election.
Nope, it was in the published agenda, so.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right, next is minutes approval. Approval of the December 2022 Planning and Zoning meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is public comment. This would be for any that is not an agenda item currently. Does anyone have a comment for something that is not reflected on the agenda?
I don't have a copy of your agenda.
Yeah.
Oh.
Missed it.
Oh, there you are.
Thank you.
Does anybody else?
We just didn't understand.
Thank you. Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, if you received the notification in the mail, that item is on this agenda. So.
Last call if there's any public comment for an item not currently on the agenda. Good. All right. No old business. So number 7 is new business. Item A is annual election of officers.
And I'll just start off, and this is something we do at the beginning of every year, sometimes at the end of the year, but we added this item on the agenda yesterday just because we realized it was not on there. We kind of forgot to put it on there, but as I mentioned in my email to the commission, I think typically since I've been here, and it looks like even before I've been here, we always kind of do a 2-year cycle of officers, and Misty as our chair and Sarah as the vice chair have now completed 2 years. So that's not a rule by any means, but just kind of what we've always done. So, questions on that? I'll have to answer, otherwise I'll hand it off to you guys.
I need some lengthy discussion about it.
Long time. So in the past, it's been tradition, but not a rule, that whoever had acted as vice chair for the prior 2 years becomes chair. Sarah Ritchie, would you be interested in being up for nomination for chair?
I could probably do that for a 2-year term, yes.
Conveniently is here by Zoom.
Sorry.
I'll make a motion to nominate Sarah.
Second.
We just do voice vote. All those in favor, yep.
We do a voice vote for the nomination.
Yeah.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you have any nominations for vice chair? Anyone that would like to volunteer?
I would nominate Courtney Marmon to be the vice chair. She hasn't had a lovely run at that. Got a lot of experience at these meetings. I think she'd do a great job.
I'll second that.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Yeah.
Think about your son.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other nominations, or should we vote? Is that how we do it?
All right, we're good. All right. Ormsby,
Yes.
Freeble,
Yes.
Solwich,
Yes.
Ritchie,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Harmon. Yes. Right.
Yes.
Well, congratulations.
What's
the effective
items-
date?
Is consider recommendation on a major site plan application for a daycare center at 1010 North Jefferson Way.
Jeremy, did you say something there? Sorry, I didn't.
Sorry.
I just wonder what the effective date would be for that.
No change. Good question.
Oh, we can technically now, I guess, if we want to do it that way. I guess it's up to you. Yeah, you want to take over on that. Sarah was good. But. Sarah, do you want to take over or do you want Misty to?
Take over via Zoom though, when we've got.
Not today.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do Misty this meeting. We'll continue that. And then next meeting, we'll do the new officers if that works for everybody.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Riley was ready to get me out.
Yeah. No, not.
All right. Staff report. On item 7B, 10 North Jefferson Way.
And Misty, before we start, I'm gonna abstain from this.
Thank you.
We're gonna, and one thing I'll tell you, just as we start here with the new year, one thing that we're doing with all of our boards and commissions, as you can see here, is we're going to be doing PowerPoint presentations with each item. So we were just waiting for that to get up and I'll hand it off to Emily.
Yeah, so this is for the daycare facility. This application was submitted by Bradley Cooper, who was requesting a major site plan to allow for a little over 5,000 square foot daycare facility. The staff report does note 10,000, a little over that. That's actually the sum of this site and the adjacent T-Mobile site. So clarify that. It's addressed at 1010 North Jefferson Way and is zoned C2 highway commercial. The daycare facility proposes to host up to 70 children and would have 10 workers requiring 17 parking spots. The site plan as shown without the future additions, which we'll get into, is deficient in the minimum off-street parking requirements. There are 2 future parking spots that are shown, and those would be implemented should the lot to the north develop. There are also 2 proposed connection points that are shown between this parking lot and a future parking lot to the north and to the south. Should either of those develop, when the one to the north is developed and access way is developed, that's when the parking lots would be created. 2 maps shown on the screen. The one to the left shows the zoning and the adjacent zoning to the subject property. This shows that it's all C2 highway commercial. To the right shows future land use map, which designates this area as regional mixed use, which is the proposed use would be consistent with both. Staff is recommending at this time to move alternative 2 to approve of the rezoning request with conditions. And that condition is to, should the lot to the north develop an interconnected parking lot, must be implemented, and 2 additional parking spaces must be created to with minimum off-street. Should this item a recommended decision, it will go on to city council for their final decision on January 17th. Any questions?
I have a quick question. So we're 2 spots short of the parking minimum. Interconnected parking lot going through that would meet the minimum requirement then? Is there any concern with that interconnectivity given the grade differential that's shown there? I mean, it looks like just from the civil plan that there's a little bit of a hill between the 2 sites. How do we account for that?
I can give you some background on why we went forward and we were comfortable with this recommendation. So the property owner of this site, I don't know if fully purchased, but has at least under contract the property to the north. As we've worked through some of the preliminary things on that, one of the thoughts on that site to the north has that creek that runs through it there, that drainage way that runs through it right there. They're looking at options on putting a storm sewer through there and then filling that area in. We've talked preliminary on a lot of those things. So as we move forward, I think we're comfortable to a point now through the discussions we've had. If that site develops to the north, that grade's probably going to be taken care of when that ditch fills in, if it does. So one of our plans going forward, obviously, will be that. However, in the end, if it doesn't happen, we're also comfortable that we could possibly offset some of the parking onto that site there to the north. Minimum parkings are minimum parkings, obviously, but I think one of the things we're comfortable with is that the parking overall for this site was driven up a little bit because the second spot in the first building was thought to be a restaurant at one point. We're still not sure what that use will be, but the restaurant is ultimately going to be the highest parking count that would come out of that. So even if that didn't happen, and let's say that was a medical facility or something like that, actually the required parking for that then comes down, and this site has an excess of parking.
So was it Dan Lee that submitted for this?
Yes.
So they have site to the north under contract.
If it hasn't been purchased yet, I know
They're looking at filling in. Creek is a generous term.
Yeah. But their ultimate goal is just to get the clear land essentially from Jefferson, where the old meat locker site was, out onto this site, to be able to have some flexibility with what they develop on this site. Yes, it would take a lot. We know that. We've looked at the plan, so.
I have a question about timing. Weren't they supposed to do this before they constructed?
This time of year, we run into this a lot. They wanted footing foundations in before the ground froze too much. To be quite honest, before it got to you, we were held up on a few comments on the stormwater management plan that ultimately were not going to dictate what the building looked like in the building location. We relayed this to the property owner and the applicant. We let them know if they wanted to proceed, they could. We would do the footing foundation only permit on that side. However, if ultimately they were to get to a point where the commission or the council said no to this, they have proceeded at their own risk, and we would have to work through those issues at that point.
I guess I'm just concerned about future, and once you do something like this, then the other people want to point to it and say, well, you let them do it. And I'm concerned that the code section clearly states prior to. And I guess we're not going to go back on this, but I'm wondering if there's a way in the future we could be more firm about the prior to rather than after the fact.
We're working on that with this particular one. Yeah. The other thing I would just mention is we adopted our new site planning code, new zoning code here 18 months ago. And really this last calendar 2022 calendar year was really the first time we had projects coming through under this new system. I think for the most part, some of our frequent developers are getting a little bit more used to it. So a little bit of hang up on that as well too. But I know with this, on this one in particular, we've met with the developer and property owner on that and try to kind of talk about our process and what we need to have them do going forward. So
Will it help that we're going to meet twice a month?
it should, yes.
Okay. Did it once?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is all their stormwater just going to the creek?
They've got it, so there's a little bit of detention that is behind their building that is just to the north of Walgreens parking lot there. So there is some that drains into that area, and that area is designed to capture that. I believe the parking lot that is got full storm sewer in it is going to the north into that stream.
Is there anyone in the audience that has any comments or questions on this specific agenda item? No? Any further comments or questions, commission members? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Again, I think just, you know, again, if the city is comfortable with discussions you've had and the parking will kind of rectify itself, then I'm good with alternative 2. Recommending approved with conditions should the lots to the north be developed and interconnected parking lot shall be implemented and 2 additional parking spaces must be created to comply with minimum off-street parking requirements for the site.
Second.
Do we have any additional discussion before we do a roll call vote?
Norman? Yes. Brave?
Yes.
Ormsby?
Abstain.
Soldwich?
Yes.
Ritchie?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Yes.
Preble?
Yes.
Great. Item 7C, consider the request from David Bentz for a modification to a planned unit development for a property located at 1203 North East Street.
Sorry, Lisa, is it, on your screen, is it? Not, I don't know.
And see, what I see is what's.
Okay. Thank you. Um, So this is a planned unit development modification.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear anything you say.
Sorry. So this is a planned unit development modification request for 1203 North East Street. The applicant is David Bentz. The planned unit development master plan proposes future site improvements, including additional independent living areas, a wellness and dining building, and a health center. Additionally, the applicant is proposing renovations to the existing building on the site and some duplexes. The bi-attached independent living units are shown to the northern portion of the property. They are showing an extension of Angela Drive, which would connect to Northeast Street, and along that drive would have 24 attached duplex units, which are highlighted on the map. 2 additional duplex units are shown off of a new proposed road, which connects between Wesley Lane to the new proposed portion of Angela Drive. The concept plan also shows a vacation of Robin Glen Drive to be vacated after the completion of Angela Drive to provide for redevelopment. The concept plan shows these new proposed additions within that area. So in the red is a proposed health center around 6,300 square feet. In green shows proposed recreational spaces, including bocce ball, pickleball, and a dog park / flex recreational space. In yellow is a proposed wellness center that is a little under 1,700 square feet. And in blue is 2 proposed independent living apartments. 2 maps on the screen. The one on the left shows existing zoning. So the site is already zoned as a planned unit development, but this would be, this application would be like a modification to the existing PUD. The map to the right shows the future land use designations for the area, which is low to medium density residential and medium to high density residential. The screen, it shows the proposed bulk regulations, which can be found in the agenda packet as well. Generally, they're showing a front setback of 25 feet, a side setback of 8 feet, a rear setback of 30 feet, with 20 feet along the north and east property line where the duplexes are, as well as 20 feet building separation, and 25% open space requirement across each areas that they're proposing. At this time, staff is recommending approval of the request. Upcoming meetings regarding the item are shown on the screen. So it'll go to City Council January 17th for the first public hearing. The second would be February 6th, and the last and final would be 1st. If there are any questions? If Charlie has any.
Charlie, with Manning, Robin, Lynn, is there any concern from life safety or anything like that for
So-
added distance to get out?
We run this past the conceptual plan plus the pre-application meeting we had some time ago. Fire department was involved in that, and they did not have any concerns since there still is access coming out onto East Street. And with the concept that was shown up there, there is kind of almost kind of a cut through to get to that old in there. So there was no concern from them on that issue.
Is there anyone in the audience that has any comments or questions in regards to this agenda? If you do, please go to the podium, and then if you could give us your name and address, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Lillian Stewart, and I live on the north edge of the proposal additions, I guess. And when we moved in there, there was a 40-foot green space 30 feet behind us. And then they sent out a card and I didn't realize what it was for, and it shrunk to now it's 30 feet. And the proposal is to shrink that now to 20 feet. And they can have a 10-foot deck on the back. So that means when I'm out in my garden, they're going to be sitting in their deck chairs 10 feet from me. And I feel that this is a problem for most of my neighbors, and it's certainly a problem for me. Also, having truck traffic on the road right behind us is a little different than when I purchased the home. And the density of the planning here of putting so many structures in that area certainly makes a difference to our neighborhood. And I would also like to say that this is postmarked the 15th of December, but we didn't get it till last week. So I don't think it was delivered through regular US mail. Maybe it went bulk mail, I don't know. But I don't know if that really serves as legal notification. Maybe it does. Not sure. But certainly the village is a wonderful neighbor in many ways, although, you know, when they did the latest round of work, my neighbor at the back of their yard, it just drops 30 feet straight down. So if anybody's walking through the yard at night, they don't know that they're going to fall. So there are some problems here. The village plans here to do this. And I really want to bring that to your attention and have you give it some careful thought. This is my home and I've lived there a long time, and certainly I'm no spring chicken, and it will be my last asset in this life. And I feel what they're doing certainly when people come look at my house to buy it, it will be worth less. Thank you.
Do we have any? Developer?
Yes.
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 Oh,
Good evening, Chair and members of the commission. David Benz, Bishop Engineering, 3501 104th Street in Urbandale. I don't know if you can bring that exhibit up.
Yeah, my Lisa, could you? Oh,
No, you get them.
It's not what I see.
The owner is also present, owner representation. So
Can you speak up?
the owner representation is also present as well. Yeah, some questions for them. But basically, they're trying to improve the facilities to keep up with the times with the aging population and the demanding needs for these types of facilities. So they wanted to do a wellness center and the improvements that she mentioned. As far as the residential street across the top, I think it was always stubbed to go that way. There's stub in that direction.
I'm sorry.
We can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
You're back.
The road along the north side, there's already a stub, like returns aiming towards the east. So it was always planned, I think, to have a road continue through there, whether it's a cul-de-sac or it connects up. Because it's not a knuckle type position right up here. It's not like a curve or a knuckle. It's got the T intersection already formed up today. I mean, that there's supposed to be a road coming through here, whether it's a cul-de-sac or it connects up.
Who did that?
I don't know that it was set in stone. Our goal was to vacate this street so they could do some improvements to connect up the Aspen building with the existing facility. And then this is a more direct access to this neighborhood. This is all part of the Wesley community. It kind of keeps it all separated. This would be the main. That's kind of the thought pattern. That answers your questions. Do you have any other questions?
you're welcome.
Can I ask a question of him?
Would you mind going up to the podium and giving your name and address?
I'm Susan Lathrop, 805 Scott Felton. And this density, this encroachment of building with increased density building is going to be within 10 feet of back of my property. And I really feel like that's an encroachment. When you look at the whole map of the village, most of it's like a park. And then you get over and you're going to build buildings within 10 feet of my back fence. I'm just wondering, were there alternate proposals to fit in? I mean, there are other places where you wouldn't encroach on other neighbors. It just seems like there must be some alternative to all of us who live along there to have duplexes within 10 feet of our property. So I'm just wondering, were there other plans proposed? We heard a long time ago that they might put a we knew, but we certainly didn't know they'd be right in our backyard.
And these units are not designed yet. They're working on the design of those. So they could make them a little bit different shape, try to pull them away from the neighborhood if there's a certain distance.
But there's still a deck that they can put on the back of them. So that means they're gonna be sitting out in your deck. I'm gonna be at the back of my yard working in the garden, and they're gonna be 10 feet away.
I guess my question for
Maybe they'll help. I don't know.
With the distance that we can compromise with.
Well, you could go back to the 30 feet that it is currently.
Yeah,
So
my question is, why would the zoning, why
I
would
have some
this
questions real
commission?
quick. We kind of got to keep it in order here and I have a question for the engineer. I'm not trying to be rude and step on you guys, but for me, it's hard to keep track when like there's 5 of you talking and my brain does not function very well for that. So if you don't, I wanted to ask about that, just specifically trying to keep some order here. What are the exact setbacks that you guys are proposing from the building, from the property line in your master plan right here?
I think the rear was 20.
20.
Okay, so 20-foot building setback.
Per your ordinance, I think it's 30, correct?
Yep.
Well, So the PUD district doesn't have a specific setback. That's where you propose your own set of bulk regulations on that. But when you look at our 2-family requirement with the code currently, if it was in a regular zoning district, it would be 30, yes. In other words,
34, how far the deck could go back or the building
no, that's the
itself?
building. So then the deck can encroach into that setback up to 20 feet.
Yeah, so that leaves.
Guess my question is why would you as a commission approve that?
The proposal to the commission, no one's voted on anything.
Right, that's
Why
why,
we're here to hear your point of view as well.
so we're diametrically opposed. Thank you.
My name's Kimberly Leifson. We're 1213 right next door. I just had a question since they're kind of removing all of the entryways and making everything through Angela Drive now. If that's basically where all the deliveries are gonna be, ambulances, trash service, if all of that is now gonna be directed through all the neighborhood versus through the main entrance like it used to be. Cause that's a concern for noise and pollution and things like that when you've got big delivery trucks coming and going all hours of the day. So that's kind of my main question about that.
I think we have the architect online, as well, but I think the deliveries are gonna be back in this area right here. Assuming most of the deliveries will come in.
But you don't really know how they're gonna leave.
Well, I'm sure they're probably, if they're going.
Yeah,
They're gonna probably use that.
they're gonna go the closest way to wherever they're going next. Yeah.
Well, I did ask if there were, had you proposed other plats? Or is
Other
this,
concepts. The architect did some concepting originally. Don't know what all.
So is it okay for me to, I'm Christine Soma, I'm the architect on the call. Is it okay for me to speak up?
Be great, thank you.
Great, okay, so, yep, so my name's Christine Soma. I'm an architect with Pope Design Group out of St. Paul. Thank you to the chair and the planning commission for having us, and thank you to the entire group who's here today to comment. I guess I would just start by talking a little bit about the design concept of this full master plan. You know, I think Wesley Life as a community and an organization is really looking to move the community much more to a residential scale. I think this current campus was designed in the time when nursing homes were built in an institutional model. And it's so lucky to be located in this heart of this residential area. It is true that there will certainly be, there are needs that campuses and communities like this have, but Wesley Life in particular puts a really strong emphasis on, I would say, small scale operations, decentralizing their dining, just bringing a more residential and home scale to their communities. And so that in itself is the purpose of this full master plan update. Relocating the drive was a big piece of that. And so creating an access point that doesn't feel like a very large institutional entrance, but rather a much more small scale. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm seeing one person. Yeah, you can hear me okay. Okay. You know, much more at a human scale. And so, and then also the wellness building is meant to connect all the buildings so that the amenities, the dining can be available to people not only in the existing buildings, but also to residents in the townhomes in the surrounding neighborhood. So again, that's, I guess I want to just start by saying that's sort of the entire vision and the values that Wesley Life has behind this master plan. I agree with David that the road connecting across with the new townhomes has always been planned in that location. Due to the topography, it is pushed back a bit on the site. So while there were certainly different versions that were looked at. This was the one that made the most sense from a topography and aligning with the current road system perspective, as well as scooting around the other properties in the surrounding the campus. David, do you agree with, actually, sorry, we take turns, never mind, it's not a conversation, it's a public hearing. Okay, so that's the purpose or the background behind the roads. Trying to think if there were other questions to address. I think the setbacks came about because of the need to align with that road.
Can I say something?
If you wouldn't mind.
Oh. Well, it was very nice to hear about the future overall plan for Wesley. They're our neighbors and we get along great, but to say that this road has always been planned there, certainly never has anyone asked my opinion on the road there. And if it affects the value of my home, I think that's, you know, maybe I'm just a little person and this is a big complex place, but you know, it's what I've worked for all my life and it's in my house. And, you know, what are we doing here with my house? And, you know, they do have a lot of land and most of it does look like a park. And even though this has been on the plan for this company, you know, that's wonderful that they've had this plan, but they didn't come and contact any of us about whether this would be a good thing for our property value. And it certainly doesn't make me feel comfortable in my backyard. And that's kind of, when you're retired, that's kind of your whole world. So I would really say that you need to really consider moving that out a little bit.
You know, I don't want to speak for Wesley directly, but I think they want to be good neighbors, so we will
Yeah.
definitely look at. That's what I was trying to ask
Yeah.
earlier, so I think current house, look like they're about 30 foot off and they can build decks off them, so if we go back to the 30 foot. Look at units for that, if we have to. Try to the end of the road as quick as we can, but obviously.
Yeah, there are
30 foot of city ordinance,
Yeah.
that's what you guys have.
34.
30 what?
34 is the city, right? And and ours is 30 right now in
No,
this.
30 is.
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay.
We can look at 30 along here. Comparable to what you guys have, so these would be units.
Okay.
And I know I do a lot of residential developments. Sometimes the development sits for a period of time. Those people, just the farm field or the, you know, when development happens, they're all up in arms, but development's always gonna happen.
Oh, I know, develop. Yeah,
So we want to be a good
absolutely.
neighbor too, so if we could work
Yeah.
with you and get that 30 foot.
Yeah, last time when they did this and it went from 40 to 30, I'm kind of like, well, I don't really mind that. It doesn't really affect me all that much, but now that you're taking it down to 20 and they're having a 10-foot deck on the back, that or more, that puts them really close to me and my garden.
I don't know if we're aware of anything about 40 feet. Do we know what?
Back, I mean, we've lived there 40, 30 years. So it was back when we bought it. The real estate, the real estate agent said yes, and you won't have to worry because there's a 40-foot green space that that has been put in here when these people bought that property.
And we probably didn't tell you it was going to be empty for 30 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, I assume that there would someday, and people have said, well, I think they're gonna build another big building off that one over there, and I'm looking over there, that's a long ways, that would be fine, I don't really care. And if they wanna put a street back there, it is a little densely packed, because that does make a difference when you're talking about the feel and whatnot of your neighborhood. And the Scott Felton Road neighborhood has always been kind of widely spaced, and it feels that way, but, and then truck traffic, which I think will probably go through there because they don't usually just go in and out the same. But yeah, I'm really concerned about the value of my home, and I'm really concerned about being able to go in my backyard and feel comfortable. Thank you.
I asked a question about the east end of Robin Glen there. No. There. Is that gonna remain open?
No,
What is that?
this is the new main entrance facilities. This would be the wellness center and the main entrance right here.
Okay, and that's into the parking.
Yeah, kind of give it a grand entrance.
Okay, and then what are the two wings that go north and south? No, those things, they got crosshatches on them. Right on
East
the
Street.
east end of the parking lot.
Multi-story.
Yeah, those.
Those are drives down to the underground parking ramp. Future under.
And so deliveries. Would be an issue. Where would deliveries go?
It's marked on there right where his finger is in red, right there.
I'm sorry, I can't read it.
It's hard to read on the paper. Right now, it's on the opposite side of that little thumb, that little white thumb. And they come in from East Street, it's food service semis
Which
and
other,
trash trucks.
and I assume they exit back out this way versus going this.
Yeah, they come in through a drive on the north part of your, right, yep, come around back into the thumb and go straight out onto the existing, not up there, down low. Back out, yep, right there.
But they come this way, so they're not. You could assume they're gonna.
Ask, what is your connection to the project somehow, or are you just?
Yeah, I'm John Hoyman. I live at 1301 Country Club Road. I've lived there for 22 years.
That way
I do the
could, like,
snow
understand
removal.
What's going on?
I do the snow removal at the village, the driveways and the townhomes and the parking lots, so I know every inch of the place. I know every planter, I know every yard decoration intimately. So I kind of do know what I'm talking about there. We live in the upper, my wife and I, Tammy, live in the upper right-hand corner. Where, right there, that's us, yep. And we too could have concerns about the density. We have concerns about the setbacks. We have concerns about the statement in the plan that says that you can't find the bulk regulations and or guidelines for a PUD. If that's the case, what are you using?
I mean, I can explain that. So a PUD is the opportunity for a landowner to present essentially their own zoning district that is unique to the features of the property and what they're using it for. So that is what they're doing here. Through a PUD, they submit a plan with their guide of regulations that they adhere to. And that's what that plan, we've gone through it with some of those bulk requirements in there, but their entire plan, which is, I don't know how many pages, probably what, 13, 14 pages, is the guide that then we allow the development to be based off of.
You redid your code. I don't know what documents you did 18 months ago. How did you change the R5 zoning classification? Because there doesn't seem to be an R5 anymore.
Yep.
It's just PUD.
Yep, it all got, there was a R5 and then I think there was a C4 planned commercial, and that both those districts went into our PUD.
Were you here when the R5 PUD had references to bulk regulations and guidelines?
In the R3 district, yes.
Yes. And that reference, that incorporation into the R or the PUD, right?
Yeah.
So they just kind of pick and choose and.
Well, again, they're proposing their own set of regulations. The commission reviews those, makes a recommendation up to the council. The council will ultimately approve them. So they don't just propose what they want to do and then go out there and develop. It has to go through a review process through the Planning and Zoning Commission and through the council.
But it seems like they have proposed.
They
That's
have,
what they want
and
to do.
that's what's
So
being
that's what
reviewed
they-
here
that's what
tonight.
they're doing.
So the commission's reviewing that, and then the council has to review it, and they have to pass an ordinance, which is 3 considerations
Understand.
to approve it.
I understand. And I'll only bring up one of the bulk regulations, and that's the 35-foot maximum height. I don't see anything in there about single family, or no, single story requirement. For townhomes, a 30-foot maximum height could be up to a 3-story building. These flat shed roofs, you see so popular these days, you could build a 35-foot single family residence, but 35 feet high. And that was chosen by these folks for this development. And it just kind of goes through because statements like you don't know where the things are, or that they can pick and choose whatever they want. And that we don't have the existing PUD, the one that's approved. I have not been able to obtain that. I don't know if any of these folks have. What are we comparing this to? Because it's my understanding that the city they can only build what is approved by the city. So there was an original PUD, and I believe there were some amendments along the way, but I don't know what the last one was. I don't know if anybody else, and I'll let them speak for themselves. I got pulled up here, so I'm going to sit back down and let everybody else take their turns.
I appreciate that. I just want to interrupt and
I
say.
don't know if I want it to be helpful. And I think everyone here might agree that we don't want the village to go away.
Right.
And I don't think anybody here believes that we can make the village go away.
No.
That's not why we're here on Tuesday night. We're here to make sure that this doesn't get away in a direction that it shouldn't go. For the neighbor's sake, city's sake, for the neighborhood's sake, and for the village's sake as well. To maintain that good neighbor relationship that you talked about, which I believe in, having lived there for 22 years. Spent many snowy night there, helping those folks out with their driveways and sidewalks. I'll sit down. Thank you.
You.
Can the architect speak to the nature of the design of those units? Has there been some elevations done? Do we have a concept of what those might look like?
My knowledge doesn't make that yet. She's on the line. She can't. I will just say, keep in mind, it's really right up to a lot of stairs inside the facility. And I believe we have some of the guidelines we went off of. I think they found the 20-foot spacing from each other. So sort of maybe bigger footprints because I think they're single story. Goal. Christine, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm sorry, are they asking about the townhome, the exterior design of the townhomes in particular?
That and the elevations, I think, right?
Well, just the general design. Are they single story? Are they gable roofs? Shed roofs? What's the thought here?
Yeah, so okay, so there's actually a couple different the townhomes are actually being as part of a residential package. So those are a little bit outside of my personal scope. We're part of the more the campus piece, but I have worked with the owner at least on some of the preliminary, and as far as I know, the townhomes are a single story. And I think to the point previously of just asking about the PUD and being a good neighbor, I mean, I think taking the opportunity in a PUD to build small scale residential, especially in the adjacent area where it is residential, I think was Wesley Life really wanting to address that good neighborly scale, right? So understanding that single story, single family or townhomes might be the perfect fit for that corner that is closer to those single family homes. And so designing that piece accordingly. And then I think too, the look of the rest of the pieces that we're infilling. I mean, if you look at that care center right now, I mean, if you look at it in plan, it was designed under, again, the old nursing home institutional model. And so having the opportunity to have those those new additions in that more campus zone will give the opportunity to create a more appealing visual, welcoming appearance to this campus. And I think that's certainly, I couldn't agree more with the previous gentleman. I'm so sorry, I forgot your name, but yeah, but wanting to make sure to do the right thing for this campus and this neighborhood, I think it couldn't be higher as a priority for the design team and the owner as well.
Charlie, real quick, this is their proposal, right? We can make our recommendation, a motion, and put other things on here still. So for clarity's sake, and for comfort level, it would be easy to amend that to include a single story call out for all of the duet or duplex properties, correct?
Yeah, we can definitely do that as part of the recommendation. Obviously, I think probably want to just discuss that. I mean, I hear that's kind of what the applicant's stating as well too, just to make sure they're okay with that going forward as well. But
Agree with your logic that, like, given what's there and that it's a senior facility, the chances of that having stairs are probably minimal, but it would be not a big deal to include that in a motion.
just as we've worked through some of this really quick too, and I just want to make sure we point this out, the 35-foot height requirement is what is currently in our zoning code for all single family duplexes and all of those things. So I think the applicant's intent was to bring forward most of our existing regulations that we have for residential structures right now into the PUD to stick with what the current requirements are. Obviously, there's a little variation in a few areas on this just because, you know, reasons that have been stated, but for the most part, we're just bringing in existing regulations from our zoning ordinance into this PUD.
Thank you. I have one question. Have you or the owner met with any of the surrounding residents?
I have not, I don't know.
No. Thank you.
Hi, mission. I'm Terry Crappel, 3217 West 4th Avenue here in town. I'm representing John and Tammy, and I know John has already spoken. But one of the topics that I just wanted to point out, and I know others have alluded to that, with the mailing of the notice, John and Tammy received their postcard on the 4th. And there's a lot to absorb in the package you all are considering, and there's a lot to absorb just from the conversation that we've had tonight. And I would ask that the commission consider, I know the staff recommended item number 1 and the approval, but the item 4 here is, commission can remand the request back to the applicant and or staff for further review, modifications, and direct to place on a future agenda. We've already talked about tweaking the road, talked about the possibility of providing, a greater rear yard setback. And I know in talking to the Hoymans, just further time to absorb what's in here. I don't know if there is an original PUD plan that was approved, but compare new to the old, maybe get some tweaked or revised proposals to the plan. And I do know that in just reviewing the ordinances, Planning and Zoning Commission shall consider the following as part of their deliberation: general relationship to and impact on the surrounding area and the neighboring properties. I think you're getting a lot of input that the neighbors do have concerns, and there is an opportunity to send this back for further discussion, send it back to the drawing board, get more input from the neighbors, maybe share ideas with the developer and staff, and see if there's a revised proposal that is more palatable or just fits the neighborhood better. And I do know too that just on the notice that the code requires mail 10 days prior to the hearing, and but it's still, when you receive it on the 4th, the hearing is on the 10th. There's a lot to try to sort out. But I just ask that you consider, you know, that option 4 that you have, and allow this a little more time to percolate and see if everyone can work together to come up with a plan that fits better.
So, Jake Leifson, we're at 1213. So we're right next to where the curved portion of the road comes around on Angela and then enters East Street. Yep, that's us. That road, so I don't know, it sounded like you were pointing at it like it doesn't exist right now. That road is not there. Right. That's not there. So right now, delivery trucks, garbage services, they're all self-contained inside the villages. There's no traffic up that way right now. Okay, so they don't enter and then come back around. They're going to. And I know for us being right there at that corner, we're going to constantly have lights turning, facing our yard, things of that sort. I don't see a lot of plans on here, and maybe I'm just, this isn't the plans that they would put, like trees and planting areas, things like that. But is there going to be some additional, like, you know, shrubberies, noise canceling spaces, you know, fences, things that are going to help block some of those road noises, those delivery trucks, the, you know, 6 a.m. delivery driver coming through, you know, air braking through the road. I don't really want to hear that. And then the other question, you know, that I'd have is in the existing building that's there right now, down at the bottom of the hill where the circle drive is. Yeah, up a little bit further. So yeah, where that building is kind of now, there's, you know, 20 AC units, the outdoor systems there. And we get a lot of noise from that during the summer, which is, you know, I understand people got to stay cool, but adding more noise barriers, because you get 20 fans blowing in the backyard. That's all I hear when I go in the backyard.
New one, Jake.
Yeah, even the new one or the old one, either way.
Very air conditioning.
Yeah, it's just, you know, lined there. And so just more noise barrier, you know, and maybe blocking some views just to create some more privacy would be a request I'd have to maybe see some of that. I don't know if that would be on this plan or on a different one, but, and then also with that road, is there a way to have any kind of noise ordinance, delivery times that are that they can only do deliveries during set times, or garbage trucks, those kinds of things at specific times of the day, so it's not running at 6 a.m., you know, or at 7 p.m. I don't know. I just would like to, you know, that's going to become a very main road for that entire area. And it's going to become a shortcut for the people that are on the backside of it. There's going to be a tremendous uptick in traffic right there. And so I'm going to see cars just constantly. So I'd like to, and hear trucks constantly. So if there can be something that can help minimize that, speed bumps, you know, noise ordinance that they can't brake certain ways to cause all that extra noise, that'd be a request that I would have.
Kathy Law, 690 63rd Street in Des Moines, and I represent the owner of 709 Scott Fulton Road. I'm an attorney in Des Moines. And I'd just like one clarification. In the materials that were sent out, it does say that the existing property is shown to be zoned as an existing PUD on the city zoning map. However, city staff has not been able to find any supporting documentation for the existing PUD requirements or guidelines. So that's where some of us were getting the impression that there are guidelines that currently exist for this property, but no one will locate them. So I'd like to ask a question about that.
Yeah, so the old PUD district was that R5 district, which was held under, if there was nothing that was put in there, it was held under our R3 regulations. When we made our zoning change, we took that PUD or we took that R5 district and put it in the PUD. So as it stands today, the district that is there is held to the old R3 regulations. However, the PUD that we're reviewing today is a new PUD for the entire area. So if this were ultimately approved, I'm not saying it is, but if it were ultimately approved, the new regulations that are proposed within their PUD document would be the guiding document.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Just want to make a couple other points as well. With the PUD ordinance, I think the discussion's been really good tonight about working together with the developer and the architect to try to maybe get a plan that works better for everybody. My client's concerned as well with the setback requirement, especially going from a 30 to a 20-foot setback and then a deck going back another 10 feet. And we'd also like clarification from the architect or from Mr. Bentz about on the drawing when my client lives on the north side. The duplexes that are there now, there's a little square box on the top. Is that a deck or a patio or what is that area extending from the back of the dwellings?
Those are decks.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So those would be decks that would extend out there and maybe could overlook my clients and the neighboring properties as well. And a lot of these properties on the north have very nice backyards, very well developed. They use their backyards a lot. And having somebody 10 feet away is not very much distance between them and their property lines. So I think a consideration of a greater setback distance would be appreciated by a lot of the landowners and my client as well. And I didn't see anything in the PUD that would restrict this area to single family dwellings too. Would that be a part of the discussion as well? Sure that the areas that are shown as duplexes or townhomes right now to make sure that only single family dwellings would be built in that area.
Well, they're showing as duplexes right now, but you're saying, yeah, you want the single family attached.
Yeah, or make sure that there's nothing else built other than single family, like in a duplex.
With the PUD, as part of the PUD, this concept is within that document. So this concept would also be driving on there. So any deviation at any point in time from this concept, say they wanted to put multifamily along there, they'd have to come back through this process again.
Okay, we just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that area of the property. And I think redesigning the road, that would be helpful for a lot of those houses because right now it is very close to those north properties along that north line existing. So maybe there could be a fewer duplexes or something, or move them in a little bit different areas or adjust the road so they weren't as close to the neighboring properties. We had a concern too of the notices that my client was not received till about January 4th as well. And some of the notices that I've talked to other people weren't postmarked on the dates that were mentioned in the staff letter. They were a different date than that we were told that they were mailed out. So I just want to make sure that that's clarified in the future that, that those dates are stated correctly so we can make sure that the code is being followed. As the attorney here mentioned that one of your considerations is the effect on the neighboring properties. So we just really respectfully want you to consider the effect on the neighboring properties. Wesley is a good neighbor, and it sounds like most people are pleased to have them as a neighbor, but maybe the new development could be altered in some manner so it is more amenable to all parties. So thank you.
David Bentz again. Let me just clarify something. So I think Christine eloquently pointed out that, to do expansion, if we cut the main road, we'd have to expand to the north with the multi-level facility. We didn't want to do that.
If you eliminate the vacation of the road?
Yeah, with the road there. You gotta do some of these expansions. You
Sorry
have
to
expand
sorry to interrupt, but
There's all this nice residential up here. We didn't want to do that. So we're trying to match residential. I don't think we're really that far off. You're talking 30-foot setback to 70. I don't even have to change my road. I can change that to 30-foot setback, then go to shorter units. Once the plans get designed for the units, I gotta shift my road. I can do that. This is just a PUD to answer your question. So during the site plan process or the plating process, we come up with buffer and screening. I'm sure Wesley be willing to provide some additional screening here and maybe up here to help. The city has landscaping requirements. So like I said, we want to be a good neighbor. I don't feel like we're that far apart. You guys got 30-foot setbacks and you want to stay at 30? We'll entertain that. For this, the distance between the units, we want to maintain that 20-foot because we do need a density. These roads are not cheap to build. Have a lot of units on those roads. So we kind of need the density. Yeah, and I would like to just keep it as 2-story because that's what they have across the street, even though I think they're all going to be 1-story. That's what the owner's pointing out is they're going to be 1-story, but if you feel the need to restrict it to 1-story, that's fine.
Just 2 questions real quick, if you don't mind me jumping in here. Charlie, we've had the mailing thing brought up a couple times. Everything got postmarked, then code. My understanding is that we don't control the post office, correct?
We do not know.
You will work on that, but no, I think, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying, and I totally get that, but I think any of us that have Amazon show up at their house 14 times a day and stuff over Christmas, it's been rough postal delivery season, and I think that's all that was. It was not some nefarious thing by staff.
And 100%, and our code states that we have to have mailings out 10 days before the meeting. So for us, that would have been either the 1st or the 31st, depending on how you look at it, of December, which was a Saturday, I believe. And yeah, we got it out well ahead of that. So even if it was sent out 10 days ahead of time, it wouldn't be unrealistic for the notification to show up on the 3rd or the 4th with adequate service from the postal office.
Appreciate that. My second question, if I can keep going, if you guys don't mind, I totally want to keep hearing everything, but everyone keeps talking. I'm having a hard time getting through my stuff. I'm just the cranky old guy up here. I apologize for that. We've heard from like neighbors, we've heard from attorneys, engineers, architects. You said the owner's here and we keep getting like some information. Does the owner want to say anything to this at all? Or you guys want the architects, engineers to keep speaking for you? Or I'd love to hear a few words from you if you were willing on this whole, make sure that we are being all neighborly.
The architects and engineers are just much smarter than me, so I let them talk.
I feel you.
So Ward Phillips, I represent Wesley Life, the owner of this project. So our office is in Johnston. That's where I office out of, and this master plan is a long time coming. This is something our residents we've had heavily involved with, both current and future. And when you're talking about setbacks, I hear you, absolutely, because we have like-minded seniors. This really high demand to be on our property, have a townhome product like this. Priority access to a continuum of care. That's a true not-for-profit model. We're gonna do everything we can to get that setback as far back as we can. We certainly hear your landscaping concerns and don't want to be a bother with deliveries, and we'll take that full in consideration and want to communicate with you. I think you've talked to our construction manager, Mike Schmitz, a little bit, but have more communications on that. So just to reiterate, we want to be a friendly neighbor. We want to hear all this feedback. We take it to heart. We build forever communities. We expand on those forever communities as a not-for-profit in senior living. And it's a neat deal that the village is a community to us that's unique in the sense that people, half of the residents that we have at the village are from outside of the Indianola zip code. We're bringing all these seniors into this great community, and they're attracted to it for these reasons. Both what we provide and what the city provides at large. So I just wanted to say a few things. Thank you for the opportunity.
Do you guys have a timeline on your project here?
It's a longer project. There's a few financing moments for that, but it's a 5-year plus project to get all this done, because this does include exterior and interior upgrades throughout the existing community as well, which includes our late stage memory support, our health center, our assisted living, and our existing independent living. So this project and this expansion of these townhomes allows us to do a lot of neat things for the care offering that we provide.
When would you guys be expecting to kick off some of this construction? Just so, again, all the neighbors in the crowd kind of have an idea of when some of that might be happening. We can have an idea as we're looking at this stuff too.
If all goes well, we would like to have our designs for these townhomes completed this year and start the pre-selling process this year. That would kick off the building of
like a 24 type thing.
Right.
You heard him say like in concrete, that's how it was gonna go exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's all things, right? Who knows?
Right.
But I appreciate that perspective as we're making these decisions on motions and timing and all that stuff, what certainly weighs into all of it, right? All I had for now.
Thank you so much.
I have one question for you. Talking about the neighbors talking about green space and whatnot. Do you have any, and I know it's not here, but is there any thoughts of like walking trail or anything to surround this area?
Absolutely, yeah. So that would be,
People like to partake in that.
yeah, one of the overwhelming consistent feedbacks we got from our group of residents, which is 150 plus, actually closer to 200 when you count couples, was that outdoor amenity addition, just and to expand on those. So we talked about the walking trails, but the pickleball, the campfire, the gathering spaces outdoors was just almost just as important as what we're doing interior for upgrades and amenities. The increased, we identify as a health and well-being organization, so adding the wellness space, state-of-the-art equipment and programming, the culinary experience, the added culinary space. Right now, the older design, there's very little common space, gathering space, amenities. We're committed to increasing that. With a community that's been successful for very long, we know this is where it's important for the future and why we're investing in it. But yeah, the outdoors is, that kind of space is absolutely a commitment of ours.
With this facility, there's a lot of grade change, especially here, and then they pointed out there's quite a bit of grade change. Oh, like probably some back forward, but we got to bring this road up. That still makes us quite a bit. So yes, we're going to look at connecting us. They have a light nice amenity around the pond now. How to accomplish that.
Little bit of follow-up. Very Craftful again, and just a couple of follow-up comments. And one is just back to the postcard and back to the notice. And I know there's a letter of the ordinance and the mailed 10 days prior to the hearing. But my theme on this is the spirit of the notice. And the notice is to give the neighbors the opportunity to figure this out. And back to, there's a lot to figure out here with, the old PUD, the new PUD, the application, the boundaries, and the setbacks. And I think the spirit would be if this could percolate and let the neighbors provide further input. I think, on the whole neighborly goodwill, if there was a chance to see revisions that have been talked about tonight and present that again and come back for going through, I think there would be a lot of goodwill developed from, everybody that's impacted by this. And that's, I'm back to one of the options is to send it back for review, modification. And I think, there seems to be an accelerated timeline. If this is already contemplated that it's on city council agenda for next week, and I think I saw that in the presentation, it just seems to be going a little bit too fast for all the concern that's been raised tonight. And Charlie, I did want to follow up on just the PUD. It's my understanding that, this is an existing PUD, and this is a proposed revision or amendment. And I thought you may have said earlier that this is a new PUD request, but that's my understanding, and even from the paperwork, is this is an amendment, and I just want to clarify.
Yeah, so again, the existing zoning district is PUD. The new zoning district will continue to be PUD. We are just amending the regulations within the PUD from the regulations that were under the old R5, which they're currently held under, to now the regulations that are proposed within their document. Yeah, so we're just amending the regulations within the PUD, but the actual zoning district would remain the same.
Okay. Okay, and then I'll close with, and I think the owner had mentioned, this is a lengthy project. And it just seems to me it would be nice to start this off on the right foot rather than race through this. See if this can percolate and maybe a better plan come through that is better for all impacted before it goes on.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah.
You know, hey, Charlie, given like the information that's kind of come up, and it sounds like given the additional information from the owner of just the timing of the project, that this might not be a situation. And just to say, if we were gonna, let's say, approve it with conditions, because obviously it sounds like we've talked about a lot of conditions here, but given the time frame of the owner, it doesn't. I guess my question to you is, it doesn't seem like this would be an issue if number 4, like, so if we did, you know, push this back to the applicant to consider this, there is time for that based on their time frame of this. Is that correct?
I would think so. Again, there's a lot of other pieces that need to fall in place. I know from the property owner and the applicant side of things, because, you know, this is step 1 is we do the PUD amendment, get the conceptual plan put in place. Step 2, as they mentioned, there's going to be some plating that needs to be done. Development of roads, vacation of roads, site plans for new buildings and all of that. So there's going to be multiple processes that happen from this point on, aside from this. So I guess I'm looking at the property owner and the applicant to know, I guess, if that would be okay. If that was ultimately the action of the commission, was to remand this back and take action at a future meeting, are we okay with that? And I mean, that's just asking for your input, I guess. Obviously, they can still make their decision one way or the other, but.
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of feeling like, do we need to try and tackle all of, like, if we were going to do this approval based on conditions, are we going to try and tackle all of these things that we've talked about, or do we have time to relook at this at another date?
Sorry. I guess the biggest concern is, I mean, how far back will we have to push it? I mean, so it's, when I say lengthy project, this is many phases, and if we don't get to phase 1, it's gonna just be that much.
Originally, phase 1 was. They're redoing the Aspen right away. And then we want to start with relocating utilities and the roads. And then vacate this facility. So
one question for me that comes up with Jeremy's question and then kind of this timing thing is, and Charlie, with our new codes, I want to make sure I'm understanding this right, especially for everyone out here to understand too. PUD is the big guiding document, right? But they still have to go through and get the plats approved, the major site plans, all the nitty gritty details, right? Like, so what we're trying to do here is give them big guiding that says, don't do these really bad things or do these really good things. Like, just big broad picture, but they're still going to be up here. If I look at this project, like 4 more times, 5 more times, probably by the time you do all the different phases, and they're going to come with exact documents showing here's exactly where the road's going to go. And here's exactly what these houses are going to look, these duets are going to look like. And that's at the time too, we'll have more opportunity and citizens would have more opportunity to get down into that minutia and say, you know, an extreme example, right? Like your orange duet houses are not harmonious with the area. Council or, you know, commission, please don't allow them to do orange house, right? Being ridiculous, just to show an example. So for your guys is you want this to move forward because you're trying to move all the dominoes, but you're still going to be up here a lot. And we also just have to make sure that if we're going to move it forward, we have to make sure that we're not allowing something in that big picture to go forward. Right, and I hear you guys, like the 30-foot setback, I'm on board with that, right? The single story for the duets, I'm on board with that. Just so everyone knows, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but like my wife and I walk through this, we live right down the street. We love walking through this whole thing. I get where you guys are at. I also love your product and I think it's gonna be tremendous. And so we just want to find that balance for everybody. I wanted to give you guys all that perspective, like, as I hear the questions, like, you guys want to hang out with this guy a lot. You're gonna have a lot of opportunities over the next year and a half, right? As they develop stuff to be here with David and everybody. There's gonna be a lot more that we have to come and approve, correct? Just so everyone knows where I'm at, like, if we were gonna move this PUD forward tonight, for me personally, just throwing it out there, any motion I make, I would be including the 30-foot setback
And we need to be that specific.
and the single family.
Because the PUD is how it's drawn now.
Yep.
So we're already saying we want to amend the PUD.
Yep.
What, yeah, you're asking from what I'm hearing, we want a little bit of amendment to what is being shown in the current PUD plan that is proposed. And going back to the first question, when you asked about time and everything, and David, this is where I'd look at you. I mean, I think ultimately it's gonna be, how long is it gonna take the engineer to take a look at everything, take the amendments, change the concepts, change the plan document, and how fast can we get that done and back to the planning and zoning commission? Because we've now changed our planning and zoning commission schedule where they meet twice a month, so we do have a meeting 2 weeks from tonight, and I don't know if that's too soon or we need more time, but.
The short answer to that is I can do it quick because it's 30-foot and short and all the rules up. So I have coordinated a little bit with the architect. Those units have not been placeholder. I don't actually have a unit there. So however long it takes them to put something together. That's not gonna affect them at all because it's 30-foot setback. As far as landscaping, we could, I know it's not required for this, but we'd be happy to prepare some landscape exhibits just to show you guys, at least around here, maybe some up there, just to show you what we could do on our product. We could do that. So we can have it all before council, have it out to the residents if they want to play email addresses. Or to Wesley and send them documents. Or through staff, whatever.
Given the challenges with the postal service and dates that have been brought up, I mean, tweaks, even if they made them, could they get back at the next meeting?
Yeah, so
Just because we'd have to serve notice again then, correct?
no, because your application still is the same application
one.
that's submitted. So by action, again, the notice is meant to inform the public that, hey, the planning and zoning commission is going to be reviewing this item if you want to come to that meeting and provide comments. So I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that's worked. But that being said, now if we continue to have that same application on file and you take action to say, we're going to defer this to the next planning and zoning commission meeting in 2 weeks, then that's the notice there at that point, is that, again, we're having another meeting in 2 weeks on this since we
We can hang out again in 2 weeks. I mean, I guess from my perspective, and I'm not gonna speak for anybody else, everyone else is able to make theirs. I think if you guys are able to make some of those tweaks, right, and make that fall in line, and we come back and do this again in a much clearer manner in 2 weeks, so that folks feel more comfortable knowing what's going on. And again, knowing that we're gonna have to keep doing this again a lot, but show more landscaping, right? That 30-foot is a big deal to me personally. Anything formal, there's no motion made, right? And then the single story limitation on at least that run along the north, right? To make it harmonious with the neighbors above it. You know, I mean, that's my thoughts. I think would go a long way personally to keep this thing moving forward pretty quickly. I don't know.
It makes sense based on what's been shared on both sides of what they're agreeable to.
People want to speak yet.
I got some more people yet. Oh, they're lining up.
They're lining up.
I didn't realize that, sorry.
Actually, my question is for you. I forgot to mention it earlier. As far as drainage goes, obviously with the streets and the houses and the change in elevation, where are you planning on the runoff and the water to move?
Excuse me,
Can't hear you.
the detention facility over here, existing pond. Maybe a little bit up here that runs out.
If I may speak to that, because surface water, and I'm gonna let Lillian, we're not gonna say much. We live.
You're gonna have
Sorry,
to.
I'm sorry, Karen, introduce yourself.
And before he gets there, just one thing from my standpoint, I want to clarify too, as part of the subdivision process, as part of the site planning process, we do require stormwater management plans to be reviewed. Our consultant engineer does review all of those and provide comments until we get everything.
So that will, so I think for the question, it's something that will be under review as they release those.
Sorry.
My name is Sam Martin. I live at 1102 Stephen Court. To help us understand where we live, the bullseye that he pointed to the map where it comes from, East Street. We live at Stephen Court. And the drainage water comes down that direction. I'm certain the city's well aware that it can get to be a little bit anxious down there. We've never had dirty water, but we've had our share of clean water, and thank God. So, but please, as this movement, we're talking all the way up to where the Hoymans live, over to Iowa. That area is drained by that one ditch that goes down through there. Yeah. And what they've done through the years has been sort of Band-Aids on an open sore, that needed to be fixed. But then consideration of right now, I know that there's trees that divert the water, shove the water in one direction. The dry pond that you're talking about, the wet pond. And then we live on the bottom of the dry pond. And of course, it goes right down in that area. It comes over the wet pond, comes down to the dry pond, goes over the dry pond, goes into the ditch that's between ourselves and our neighbors, and then outlets to the street. And all these years that we've lived here, which is approaching 50, we can't have the elevation of that road rise because that sort of slows down when it goes over the road. At least we know it's not headed for our basements or our homes. So I just wanted to mention consideration of surface water, because that's a lot of concrete, a lot of parking lot, a lot of. Well, I mentioned that, Lillian, I'm sorry, took you, but thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking to the point of maybe passing this on with, understanding that there's going to be changes, but once you pass something on, it's been passed by you. And looking at, like he said, look, they were always planning on the road going here. It's been on our plans forever. And this is in the plan and you guys okayed it and passed it on. I would really like you to reconsider this and come back in a couple of weeks and show us what can be done. Thank you.
Next in line.
Sorry, Susan Lathrop again. So as I just want to mention, as you're talking about tweaking plan and bringing the back to 30 again, that when you look at this map as a whole and the neighborhood as a whole, all the existing village townhomes, again, like I mentioned, it's a park-like setting. And to the north, those neighborhoods are like that too. They're pretty big yards. And that's why we bought there. But then you look at it and you have all this density. And I know you said you wanted to keep them close together. But again, when you talk about runoff and cramming that many buildings, you change the aesthetics of the whole thing. We enjoy walking through there now because it is like a park. But when you put homes that close together, I think you should reconsider that because it's going to be surrounded by homes that have more yard, and that more room to see between from one neighbor to another to see. So it's the way that's drawn. It's not going to be aesthetically in keeping with the way the village has been or the neighborhood surrounding the village has been. So
City requirements driveways and faces from the roads. We could strip this down and get those down. The city staff had some concerns about driveway locations. So there could be compromise there.
Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I never got a postcard, so my notice was 0. We didn't either. And they didn't.
For the record, we are only required to send 200 feet property, so if you're outside that 200 feet, then yeah, you wouldn't have gotten one.
We're.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, I was just clarifying it again.
Right.
We can share, the list of everybody we send it to. Again, I can't control what the post office does once we send them out, so.
But you can control fairness, and that was gonna be my second thing. John Horn. 10 days notice sent by ordinary mail, first class mail, whatever the words are, is the rule, but we don't get it. I think this case, we had 6 days. If we received it on the 4th. That's okay. 4 days okay? 2 days okay?
For our code, as long as we send it out 10 days ahead of time, it's okay.
No, I'm not talking about the code because I know what the code says. I'm talking about with all of you. Is it okay? What if it comes tomorrow? We miss this meeting. All hypothetical, I understand it. Is there a policy here that talks about actual receipt of notice and fairness to joining property owners? Food for thought. Back to my first one. Mr. Rabe, I'm glad to hear you talk about postponing this because I would rather do that and get it right the first time around. Instead of, by virtue of the village's own words, this proposed planned unit development establishes bulk regulations and requirements for the proposed development of the campus and the attached PUD master plan drawings. And the attached PUD master plan drawings illustrate these changes. Turn 2 pages. The bulk use regulations are here. They're the ones that need to be changed. After meeting with these fine folks, putting our heads together, we can probably change this and get it done the first time, which leads to my third item. There will be no notice to us in the future of a meeting?
No, because the commission would take action tonight, postpone to a meeting certain. So that would be the continuation of that initial notice. Again, the notice is meant to inform property owners that there is going to be an action taken forward to the commission.
I just want to educate everyone here as to what to expect in the future. So what notice is there of the next planning and zoning meeting?
We have to publish our agendas ahead of time. We usually do it. We're supposed to do it 24 hours ahead of time. We're typically sending it out for a Tuesday meeting that Friday. So
Is
well
that
ahead of time.
publishing in a paper or is that posting on a bulletin board here in
Posted
City
on
Hall?
our website, on our agenda center, on our website, and we post them on bulletin boards within City Hall.
Bulletin board in the city and the website. That's the only notice of the next P and Z meeting.
Yes. Well, and then
And
again,
that's just for everybody's benefit so that we don't have kind of notice issue again. I think that's all minimum that we can ask for. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Nurse, where would you like to go from here?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Excuse me. Somebody's talking. Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if unless we want to discuss more, but I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion, city planning zoning remand and request back to the applicant and our staff for further review and modifications. Namely, we talked about a few of these things. We talked about the 30-foot setback. We talked about additional information on buffer landscaping requirements, the northern portion of property, looking at that as potentially single story. So those are a few of the things obviously we talked about. I don't know if we want to add those things in there, but those are, I guess, what I'm going to be looking for on the next thing. So again, I would go to alternative 4.
It's not important that we be extremely specific if it's going back to
the next meeting, yeah. So back to that with the intention that it comes forward at the January 24th meeting. I'm correct on that date, right?
That's my question too, just again, for the sake of clarity for everyone here, they can hear it. The plan is that the next meeting, the 24th, if this motion passes, it would be at that meeting. The engineers are okay with that.
So our
It's
motion
not
is
so
not.
much us. I think it's whether or not we.
I hear you. I hear you.
Put
We're
together.
I hear you. I get you.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking.
Yep,
I
we're
apologize.
doing good. So if, Jeremy, what I'm hearing is to that, your motion could be a touch more specific. That would be more helpful for everybody. You felt like making it more specific. The 24th meeting.
My only concern with making it more specific is like we've talked about, there's been this overwhelming concern about this, you know, not taking, like there's not enough public consideration being taken into this. I would let them make that decision on that. Again, I know you've voiced your personal opinions on what you're personally looking for. I have my personal opinions, like what I'm looking for, and I think we're kind of in line with that. But I would, being the PUD, some of the stuff is up to them, and I would let them sort of make that concession on their end. Just so again, from my standpoint, I'm okay with leaving it at 4. But if somebody else wants to make a motion with more specific, I would say have at it.
We're just speaking to specific on the timing, Jeremy, the owner and the engineer have said they can have their exhibits given feedback turned around in time for the next meeting. That's the only specific item, so that all public is aware that it'll be here by the next meeting. And if they would like to come and hear it, it'll be here. There's no one is suggesting to make a specific, anything else specific besides the next meeting date in your motion.
Because we're not passing the PUD.
Passing anything, they're just taking their feedback. And so, yeah, that makes sense, Jeremy, and I can't see.
Yes, it does. Yeah, 10-4. Yeah, so I would say alternative 4 that we will revisit at the next planning and zoning date, which will be held on January 24th.
Second.
Vote on that?
Soldwich,
Yes.
T. Ritchie,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Ormsby,
Yes.
Rebo,
Yes.
Gabe,
Yes.
Mormon,
Yes.
and Stecker.
Yes.
If I may, I encourage you and the owner to host a meeting with your neighbors. Talk to them so they know what's going on. Please, I can't make you do that, but I think it would be beneficial.
I think it's clear when someone moves to this neighborhood, they don't leave quickly. So they're very invested in what happens. All right. So item 7D, consider the request from Robert Foxen for rezoning from light industrial M1 to agricultural A1 zoning district to the planned unit development zoning district for land located at and adjacent to 1600 East Iowa Avenue.
We'll get out here and then we'll start.
Short break.
If you want to do that, if anybody.
Break or anything like that. So.
No, we've still got some more minutes in us.
Show must go on.
Kathy. Very much for your.
I wanted to.
Yours are upstairs.
You know, I took the aptitude test online.
Yes, yeah.
Robbie, don't take it personal. I don't think it's anything like you said.
I'm starting to get worried, like everyone's here for my proposal.
Okay.
So the rezoning request, rezone, a property from light industrial and agricultural to, the planned unit development. So the property is located at 1600 East Iowa Avenue. The applicant is, Robbie Johnson. The planned unit development, master plan proposes an expansion of the existing restaurant and, future office / industrial area. Shown on the map, purple is the trade school. The green is the pool yard. The hotel / motel is, shown in blue. The proposed restaurant is shown in orange. Light industrial is shown in, the brown, and office and light industrial is shown in yellow. You can see, once again, the left kind of shows like the outlines generally where those, locations are. Again, the zoning is currently, M1, light industrial and agricultural. To the right shows, the future land use map, which shows, which guides for industrial uses and, community mixed use for the area. So these are the proposed, the proposed bulk regulations for, this planned unit development. The proposed, regulations are, boxed in the yellow. And to the left, it just compares, between M1 and C1, bulk regulations. So you can see the difference, between those two. So the C1 actually shows a 30 feet setback. They're proposing a 35-foot, setback in their PUD. 10 foot for, C1, whereas, 20 foot would, 20 foot in the proposed. 10 foot rear setback is what's typically, shown in the C1 district. Whereas, they're proposing a 35-foot, setback. They're also proposing 20-foot, building separation, 50-foot, building height, and, for open space in the areas that are outlined, for restaurant, hotel, motel, and office. They're proposing 20%, open space, light industrial, pool yard, and trade school, proposes 15% open. The staff is currently recommending approval of the request, as submitted. And, this just shows the upcoming meetings, for the request, because it's a planned unit development. It will have to go through ordinance, so 3 public hearings. Any questions on this one?
I guess from the owner's perspective, can you speak a little bit more about the use of the trade school in the northwest corner lot?
So which area colored?
Purple at the top there.
And could you give your name and address, please?
Yes, Robert Fox. I'm the executive director for Missouri Valley. And our address is 1600 East Iowa Avenue.
And really quick, I think you were referring to, that would be the section north of the pool yard.
Yes.
Okay, so right now what we're doing with that is we're kind of currently expanding. We're building our substation pad. We're actually going to build an electrical substation for our substation apprenticeship. So we're bringing students in and linemen from a 7-state area and training them in a state-of-the-art environment on our 100 acres. So that's kind of where we're expanding a lot of our current training programs now. So I don't see us building any structures or, offices in that purple area to the north. It'll stay pole yards and training green space, so to speak.
So if this is approved, they're locked into that map unless they come back and ask for it to be modified. So you couldn't build offices up in the purple, right? But you could in the yellow.
No, you can in the yellow.
And you have to build the rest.
You said you could in the yellow.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
And You have to build a restaurant if you build one where the yellow is, or where the orange is, right? Timeline.
We're looking at 2023 being kind of a planning year, and then we would probably break ground on this concept in 24. Kind of where we're sitting right now. We don't have an approval, so we're governed by the Department of Labor. We're a Department of Labor federally governed apprenticeship. We have 4 different apprenticeships. We're starting another one in 23. We're starting another one in 24. We're starting Midwest Line College, which is going to be an actual college course for power linemen and distribution techs. That's going to start in 23. So we're actually going to be bringing college students now to our facility. So the whole concept of this idea is to be able to house and feed our apprentices and trainees that we're bringing in from a 7-state area. So I would say 24 would be when we would break ground on that concept.
And the restaurant and the hotel, are they gonna be open to the public or just your enrollees?
No, they would be open to the public.
Both of them.
Yep. Yeah, because we're looking right now, we're looking at using 2 different hotels in 23 just to house our people. That's how many people we're bringing to town. And some weeks we're looking at over 100 people for a week at a time, Monday through Friday, or I should say Sunday through Friday morning, and then they travel out.
Charlie, can we put in the PUD, to the hotel chain and restaurant food type that we prefer?
I'm a Marriott guy. I don't know what everybody else feels.
Yeah, we are talking to Marriott.
Notices to the neighbors,
Yes.
comments?
None of these ones. I will also tell you, sorry, really quick, I'll also tell you a little bit of different environment out here. Obviously, there's not really any residential property owners that were notified. It's industrial developers in the south. There would have been one, yes, probably Glasscock, or probably right now. Been the only one who's a residential property on there, so.
So, Al, if you don't mind, as I read this, Charlie, all the setbacks and open space requirements, they're all good. The reason we're doing a PUD is just, it's the cleanest way to allow for mixed use out here.
Yes, and that's 100% true. So
Looking for like anything weird or wild.
Yeah. So really what it was, as we had preliminary discussions with Robbie on this one, it was really, Missouri Valley owns, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's probably what, 120 acres? No?
Just right at about 100.
Yeah. So we wanted to see, okay, let's show what this entire land's gonna be used for. This is obviously in our industrial park. We want to make sure that we grow our industrial park. There's a lot of land owned by one property owner out here. So let's lock it in. Let's see the plan. Let's show it. We could have just gone with, okay, well, let's rezone these sites here, the hotel and the restaurant site. We'll rezone it C2, bring the commercial in. My only issue with that is then we start seeing, a map with colors on it and stuff like that. I think this works cleaner. PUDs technically, in my opinion, just from a planning perspective, PUDs always work a little bit cleaner. You'll see a lot of cities do many more than we ever do here so far. Maybe we'll do more in the future, but they work. And I think this is just a perfect example of, doing a commercial / industrial PUD and how it can work. Because you've got, again, the existing school, Robbie said how the restaurant and the hotel are really only there because of the school. So you're just seeing all of these uses that are coming in that are working off the main trade school. Long-winded answer, I know. The only other thing I wanted to note, and I know it was in the packet, is Missouri Valley's done their due diligence on the hotel. There's a market study that was done on that to show, because that was our biggest concern from the start. And matter of fact, I didn't even need to tell Robbie to do this because Robbie did this on his own. But that would have been my main concern too, is can the city actually consume another hotel, make sure the other ones are okay. According to the study, we do have the ability to have an additional hotel in town.
Mhm.
It really ties into Missouri Valley utilizing it during the week mainly, and then it's open for the weekends to the public for, festivals and different events that are gonna draw people to Indianola, which was kind of nice.
Yeah. The other thing, only thing I'll add again, this is where Planner Dark comes in a little bit, but you drive down Iowa right now, and as you're driving down Iowa, you see that trade school. It's a focal point, the main door going into there. originally, when we reviewed the site plan, the thought was we're gonna have a dormitory sitting on that pad site right in front of the college. With this concept, that's going away, so you're still gonna have that, you know, aesthetic view of Missouri Valley from Iowa Avenue, which I think is really important, rather than having a dormitory sitting up there blocking the entire view of that thing. So I think that's also a win from an aesthetic standpoint.
Could I make a motion?
Please.
Yeah, I would move that we recommend that the request be approved as submitted.
Did someone actually second it? Both just- Okay, perfect.
Any further discussion before we do a roll call vote?
Hornsby,
Yes.
Weagle,
Yes.
Goldwich,
Yes.
Ritchie,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Becker. Harmon. Yes. Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next item. Consider waiving right to review of a plat of survey for Chad Daniels for a property located within 2 miles of the city of Indianola.
This one is, could be the Gladson one. I can't pull it up on my computer because my Adobe isn't anymore.
You're fine. What do you need? I can get it to you.
But, it's. But yeah, so this is a plat of survey request, to do a, boundary line adjustment for, the Gladsons. And so essentially they're not creating any new, parcels, they're just. Boundaries. This one is located outside of our growth area. So staff is recommending, waiving, the city's subdivision authority on this one.
All right, anyone have any comments or questions? Would someone like to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve waiving our 40 division. Option 1.
I'll second.
Right. Any further discussion before a roll call vote? No, let's vote.
Yes.
Harmon,
Yes.
Decker,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Ritchie,
Yes.
Goldwich,
Yes.
Weeble,
Yep.
Ormsby.
Yes.
Great. Next item is item 7E. Consider waiving right to request review of a plat of survey for Chad Daniels for a property located within 2 miles of the city of Indianola. Different one.
So, this is another plat of survey request, to a new parcel, parcel G, which would be, approximately 23.43 acres in size. The proposed plat of survey is located outside of city limits, outside of our priority growth area. So staff is recommending waiving the city's subdivision authority on this as well.
Questions, motions?
I move that we approve resolution waiving the city's subdivision authority.
Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call vote.
Ritchie,
Yes.
Ferris,
Yes.
Becker,
Yes.
Marmon.
Yes.
Rabe,
Yes.
Ormsby,
Yes.
Weeble,
Yes.
Goldwich.
Yes. All right. Final item on the agenda, well, final item in this section is the annual report for 2022.
Really quick, I'll just highlight it. 12 regular scheduled meetings. We had all 12 meetings this year. 55 agenda items in total were reviewed, up 41 from 21. So we've increased the amount of items that we are reviewing. A lot of it had to do with the site plans now coming to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So don't want to give a detailed summary of all that just due to time, but if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
All right, and then how about,
Really quick, just need motion to approve that.
we have to approve it, I'm sorry.
Yep. So if you're good with it, and we can do voice vote on that one too.
I'll make a motion to approve the annual.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Now. Item 8, comments, the building permit report.
And I'll go over this quickly too. December permit report is our end of the year report. We did bring in value over 38.7 million this year. Slightly up almost 2 million, 2.5 million up from last year and the highest since 2011. Commercial, I think that's one area to brag about. We had over 18.6 million evaluation in 2022. That's up 121% from 21. And then residential, I've been mentioning this all year long. It's down. We did get new evaluation of about 20 million and added 49 residential units in the city with an average valuation of about $358,000. So happy to answer any questions on that. Other than that, that's all I have. Well, really quick.
Charlie, that's like the fourth time.
So Bob's term is up at the end of this month, and he has given us notice that he does not want to continue on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Sounds like we're going to have another meeting, so you're still going to have another meeting, but going into this meeting, I wasn't sure if you'd be here again, so wanted to thank you, but we'll go over that next time. And Erin Freeberg has given her resignation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, so we are currently seeking 2 people to fill those positions. We reached out to a few people, so hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have those 2 positions filled, but did want to extend my thanks to Erin for her time on the Zoning Commission. And Bob, as long as you're going to be here at the next meeting.
No, thanks.
Bring the beer.
Again.
Next meeting is the drive meeting.
You'll all do better without me probably, so.
That is not-
And I've seen a lot of people come and go, but yeah, it'll be 12 years. It's 12 years this month.
12 years.
Oh my gosh.
It's like you've grown up here. Any other comments, or would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Hallelujah.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
I see you.
Man.
You're,